Hello and welcome to In Another World, a podcast about music, movies, cute boys, and the divas we worship. Listeners, my guests and I have a history of together watching several movies of the genre we are discussing today. We have delighted in making fun of the ridiculous nature of them, while also admitting that, for reasons we can't quite understand, we've enjoyed most of them. He is the host of the podcast, Who Are You Again? And full disclosure, we have a romantic history, which makes him even more perfect to have on for this episode about romantic comedies. The good, the bad, and everything in between. Listeners, please give a warm welcome to Victor Trussell.
Yay! Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Now I sound like you on your podcast.
I know. I feel like I don't know why I'm always inclined to say hello 3 times, but there it is.
It's very RuPaul of you. So how are you doing?
I am good. I am, the world is still awful, but
Right.
we're kind of going through this little phase where we all think things are getting better, and so I'm kind of on that little faux high.
Well, it's weird because it feels... I heard someone talk about this on an interview I was watching today. They said it feels like change is sort of happening now because there's nothing to distract the public with, because there's not any sports, there's no movies, there's no new music out to distract the public. So you're
That's
kind of
true.
forced to focus on things that actually matter. So
yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I agree with that statement.
But it's
How are you?
I'm good. You'll be the 4th episode of this podcast when this comes out.
Woo!
It feels wild. I've already recorded 3 episodes now, and I'm recording 2 more this week. So it's taken over my life in a way, but it's nice to have a creative project to work on for sure.
Yeah, it gives you something to do, and it definitely does take over your life, but I think in such a positive, fun way.
Oh, sure. I mean, until I started this, I was just cleaning every inch of my house over and over again, and that was getting old. That was getting a little dull. So this is the Pop Culture Podcast. What have you been watching or listening to lately?
Oh my gosh, what have I been watching? I've been watching a lot. A couple months ago, I actually was watching a lot of shitty Netflix reality shows.
Oh, same, yeah.
Too Hot to Handle and Love is Blind. They're both pretty bad.
See, I haven't watched Too Hot to Handle. That's the one I haven't watched yet.
That's the better of the two. Like, if you had
really?
to watch, I would definitely recommend that one over Love is Blind. Love is Blind, I was cringing because I really, everyone kept saying you have to push past the first few episodes, and I was like, really?
True.
Yeah.
Well, I think because listeners, I was on Victor's podcast, Who Are You Again? So I think we talked about this, possibly. I think we might have talked about Love is Blind.
I think we might have, actually.
Yeah, I think it would have been you, yeah. You're the only podcast I've ever been on, so I think it was you.
But most recently, like the past week, I finished binging Love, Victor, and I also finished Love Life with Anna Kendrick on HBO Max.
Ooh. Did you like Love, Victor because it made you think of yourself?
You're not the first one to say
you're like,
that.
Ha, ha,
ha. I mean, that's part of it. It was really cute. I mean, I'm a big fan of Love, Simon, and actually, I know we're probably going to discuss that later. But I was a big fan of Love, Simon, and so I was eager for this little spin-off series, and they did a great job. It really caught the same energy and had the same great writing and timing as the movie.
Good. See, I haven't watched it because I was sort of hesitant to watch it because it seemed like it could be good, but it could be awful. I was curious how they would make that work as a series plot, for sure.
Yeah, they did a pretty good job. It follows kind of a similar premise as the movie, but they're pretty creative with keeping it fresh, though. It doesn't feel like it's just rehashing the
Well, that's
movie.
good. Because whenever they try to make TV series of movies, I feel like they don't work maybe 80% of the time. So I
Oh,
went,
yeah.
oh, cool. So because you made a bunch of money off this homo, teen rom-com, you're now going to make a series because you think that's going to work. So maybe I'll finally watch it for sure.
Yeah, it has a lot of integrity. So yeah, don't worry. There's some integrity
I love
with
integrity. We're always down for integrity.
it.
So the first segment is called Your Birth into Pop Culture, which is when I reveal pop culture related facts about Victor's birthday, which he has provided to me. I will be saying all your
Ooh.
numbers on the pod, so I'm clocking your age. But you are younger than me, so I don't care. So December 15th, 1990. So the day you were born, the number one song on the Billboard Hot 100 list was a song I've not heard of. It's called Because I Love You by Stevie B.
Because I love you, my heart's an open door. Girl, won't you please come on in?
Stevie B. I've never heard of that either.
I looked up the song. I didn't know it. Now, the number one movie at the box office, though, was one I'm sure you have heard of, is called Home Alone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot that was a movie. And upon looking it up, I kind of knew this from watching that Netflix show called The Movies We Love, but it was the number one movie for, I think, 2.5 months or something. It was something crazy like that.
I'm not surprised. Like, that movie, I'm sure, was a box office smash.
I guess so. I like the second one better, I have to say.
I think the second one's a little bit more memorable.
Agreed. And I remember I said that to a coworker at my last job, and they said, do you like the second one more than the first one? And I went, the first one, he's just locked in his house in a suburb. The second one, he's in New York City. That's so much cooler.
Yeah. And with the pigeon lady.
The pigeon lady. Yeah. And he steals his dad's credit card. Oh, I thought that was so glamorous.
Classic.
So, of course, we're talking about romantic comedies today. So, Victor, in your opinion, what makes a romantic comedy good?
Okay, so I gave this a lot of thought.
I'm sure, yeah.
And I think it's a pretty fragile formula.
Yeah.
You can either do very, very well or very, very badly. But I think it comes down to A, the writing, B, you have to have a solid cast, a consistently solid cast. And number 3, there has to be some sort of cute factor or something that makes it stand out. Like, I think the issue with a lot of rom-coms is that so many of them just kind of blend together because a lot of them are just so generic and they have, they don't have an oomph for anything special about them.
That's definitely true. And I feel like one thing that I feel like modern rom-coms, there's not as many like quote unquote rom-coms, I feel like nowadays. Like, there's more indie films that kind of are doing what rom-coms were doing, but then they're edgier. They don't have that Saturday afternoon on TBS feel,
I totally know
it's
what that
just
means.
like a warm blanket you put over yourself for 2 hours because you don't have to risk anything, but you'll get distracted from your life. But I feel like the big thing is the chemistry is not there between the two leads a lot of the time. They just pick two famous people and think if they put them in a movie together, it'll just work. And that is not always the case.
No, history has showed that is not the case.
Oh, God. Well, so I think for me, like examples of, I figure we'd start with actual, good ones we actually enjoy watching. So for me, I definitely think of When Harry Met Sally. That's definitely, I think, like quintessential, probably top 5 modern rom-com.
A classic, and an old classic.
And I think that movie actually encapsulates everything you said a good romantic comedy needs, because it has really good writing. It's like such a funny script, such a smart script. The chemistry is great between all the actors, but even all the supporting actors in the movie are all funny. Like, there's not a single weak
Mm-hmm.
person in that. And it actually has something to say. Like, that's the thing. It actually was going into kind of the idea, like, can men and women be friends? Which wasn't like a new idea, but it was told in a way that made it feel fresh, I feel, compared to, especially when it came out like late 80s, all the rom-coms of the 80s, it definitely felt more sophisticated in a way.
The 80s had a lot of, I forgot who I was talking to about this, but the 80s had a lot of those weird, like, movies about, like, teenagers falling in love with, like, porn stars and stuff
Oh
like
yeah, like
that.
Risky Business. He falls in love with a sex worker.
Yeah.
Which, when I was a kid, I thought that was
Risky
so shocking.
Business, Weird Science.
Oh wait, oh my god, yeah, it's just, well, and there was lots of lots of rom-coms with shenanigan filled plots, like just one
Mm-hmm.
of the guys. Do you know that movie?
I've heard of it.
I
I've heard
don't
of it.
actually, it's weird. I don't know whether to recommend it or not. It's a movie where I'm like, I don't know if it's offensive or if it's just a movie that couldn't be made now. But it's weird. I was just watching that new documentary on Netflix called Disclosure. Have you heard about it?
I have
Yeah,
heard of that,
I
yeah.
definitely recommend it. It was really, really amazing. But they went into the way that people thought of, like, trans representation in film for such a long time, and they
Mm-hmm.
cite that movie, and they don't say anything. Like, she's not supposed to be trans, but it just goes into the weird way it talks about gender in that film, and I just think, wow, they
Well,
made this.
like, yeah, there's a lot of that in the 80s and even in the 90s. Like what you just said reminded me of, there are reruns of Sex and the City on all the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
time. And there was an episode where Samantha and Carrie were like super invested in these, quote unquote
Mm-hmm.
transvestites that lived in New York City. And just the way that they spoke about
Yeah.
them and how they were addressed, I was like, oh, this is super
Oh
dated. So
yeah.
I think 80s, yeah,
They
yeah.
showed a clip of that scene in the documentary. Not to get off topic, but yeah, and it's so weird because there's a scene that's so awful. I was cringing watching the entire thing, but then I hear
Mm-hmm.
about how they wanted that episode to be empowering to trans women at the end of the episode, and I thought, you don't get to pretend like you're empowering a group of people when you also have this very, very problematic way of portraying them in the first part of the episode. That doesn't work.
Oh, for sure. And like, I love Sex in the City, and I won't go on a tangent
I was gonna
about
say,
it,
I could
but
talk on
and
the whole episode.
but anytime you have a series that is an all-white female cast, and there really weren't any people of color that I can think of really on the
No, other
show,
than, like,
it's kind
Miranda had
of
a boyfriend for a while. Samantha had a boyfriend that was black for a episode, like one episode, and it honestly wrapped up in a really problematic way. Also, yeah, it's weird to love a show, but also think there are some blemishes on this thing.
mm-hmm.
Because I mean, there's sometimes I love it, but yeah. Well, Sex and the City, not totally off topic, because Sex and the City to me is kind of taking the idea of the romantic comedy and twisting it. Like, what if these women, yes, wanted to, end up with a nice guy, but they weren't, like, obsessed with it. Like, they actually had lives and
Mm-hmm.
careers. And I feel like that was sort of the shift from the 80s to the 90s as far as rom-coms, is you saw more, like, women going after a career rather than just getting a
Mm-hmm.
guy. Like, there was some other side of it. Like, I always think of well, I guess this is early 2000s, but like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Yeah, because
Oh
the big
yeah.
through line of Kate Hudson is, I mean, yes, she falls for Matthew McConaughey, but it's about her getting a job promotion. That's what the entire plot is based on.
It's a little distracting though because it's Matthew
Are
McConaughey.
you a Matthew McConaughey? You crushing on Matthew McConaughey?
Honestly, he's kind of hit or miss. Have you noticed in some movies? I mean, he's in a lot of rom-coms,
Yes.
but in
Yeah.
some movies, he looks much better than he does
Oh,
in others.
agreed. Like, I think he looks pretty good in he looks pretty good in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I think that's a good one for him. But then I think he looks so
Mm-hmm.
awful in Made in Manhattan. Well, not Made in Manhattan. Not Made, The Wedding Planner. The Wedding Planner. See, wrong,
Okay, I was like,
wrong
what?
Jennifer Lopez rom-com. There's so many.
I wonder why. I wonder why you got them mixed up there. I wonder if they're good.
Well, it's funny. Like, I feel like Meg Ryan was the queen of the rom-com in the 80s and early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, Jennifer Lopez was sort of the queen of the rom-com of the early 2000s. I mean, you think about it. She was in Maid in Manhattan, The Wedding Planner. She was in... Oh, there's more than that. Oh, she
did some dramas. I know she was in Enough.
Yeah, not a romantic comedy.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Am I making this up? I think. Oh well, Monster-in-Law.
Is that one of your favorite
I think it's one of the
rom-coms?
funniest. If we were just going by like funny, like what is actually funny, I would say Monster-in-Law, because it's just like a laugh a minute. Like between Wanda Sykes and Jane Fonda, it always makes me laugh every time I watch it.
Wanda Sykes is just like this ingredient that if you just sprinkle a little bit of her into anything, it just becomes like voila.
Oh, she's just funny.
Oh, for real.
Like I can't
totally
think of a movie where I went, oh, Wanda Sykes was not that great. Well,
that's true.
I think if I had to say which was my favorite rom-coms from the 90s, I would probably say it's a tie between Notting Hill, which I do think is like a near perfect movie. And I think it's probably My Best Friend's Wedding. I just think that's such a good movie.
You know, I've never seen that one.
I definitely recommend it.
I've heard of it.
Really
like,
good.
I think everyone's heard of it.
It's really smart, too, in a way that you don't expect it to be so well written for being a rom-com. And has baby Cameron Diaz in it, who just looks like 18 years old. She looks so young. Like, she still looks like she's like wet behind the ears, literally. Like, you're a child. You're an infant.
So it's funny that you bring up Notting Hill, because that's with Julia Roberts, right? I don't know if this counts as a rom-com. It kind of is funny, but it's also like just kind of more romantic. But I love Pretty Woman.
Oh, I think that's a rom-com for sure.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite movies of all time, and definitely my favorite Julia Roberts film.
Do you know the backstory with that movie?
I do. Didn't it start off as it was supposed to be something gritty and dark?
Yeah,
and
I think it was called 3000 because 3,000
yeah,
because of how much money he gives her, and it literally ended with him like dropping the money on the bed, and like she leaves the hotel with the cash, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's such a weird thought after seeing this classic movie for so many years now, to think that it was more like drug infused.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, it's weird. I that's a movie I call it a TBS movie because I think I only watched it on TV for the longest time. So I had not seen just the unedited, theatrical version for the longest time. And then it was on HBO or something. I finally saw it in its actual context, and it's a lot darker than they show it on TV.
Yeah, it is. And that's why I was a little bit like, I don't know. I mean, there are funny moments, but...
I mean, he slaps her hand with a jewelry box. If that doesn't make it a rom-com, I don't know. But you think about her, like, her friend has, like, a drug problem, and, and, they're all, like, sex workers trying to make it work in LA, and they find I think they find a dead sex worker, like, in the alley behind a club or something. It's, like, something like that. I remember going... Oh, I don't remember this. And I mean, Jason Alexander tries to, assault. I mean, Jason does assault her, but like it was going to be much worse. And he thinks
that's a great scene.
Gosh. That's a movie. That's a good one.
Richard Gere. Let's talk about. I mean, he was just so hot in that movie.
I remember watching the scene where they're in the bathtub together, and like they were, and his bare chest was out, and I remember thinking, yeah. Any excuse to see a man with his shirt off that I was allowed to look at it, I was down.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's weird. Like I would say 80s, I would say the rom-com people were like Molly Ringwald, and probably Meg Ryan really only had When Harry Met Sally. But then the 90s was like Meg
Mhm.
Ryan / Julie Roberts. I think that's like just pretty much. And Sandra Bullock. I guess you gotta throw some Sandra Bullock in there. Oh, actually, Sandra Bullock, that reminds me of While You Were Sleeping. I do love that movie.
I've always been so iffy about Sandra
Oh
Bullock.
my. Controversial.
Controversial.
What are your thoughts on Miss Bullock?
I don't know. I think, and I hope this doesn't sound
Oh, say
awful,
whatever you
but
want.
there are so many brunettes in Hollywood, and honestly, like, sometimes I'm just like, oh, I mean, I don't have anything against
Right.
her. I think she's a good actress, and she's proven herself, obviously,
Oscar
but
winner.
I don't know. Like, yeah, she's okay.
I will say, I think she gets by a lot on her charisma. Like, she has a lot of just natural charisma as an actress. And I think later in her career, she has proven herself to me. But then again, I say that, but I think about she has a monologue in While You Were Sleeping that's so good, and you think, wow, this is better than a rom-com. But then there's other parts. Like, it's just, I think
Other
we know.
hearts.
Yeah, like I think the reason there's so many I could like because Miss Congeniality. I do love Miss Congeniality.
Yeah, that's
But
a
is that a
classic. I think
rom-com
everyone
or is
likes
that a
that.
comedy?
I think it leans more towards
I do.
comedy,
Yeah,
but I
me
mean,
too.
it has elements though.
Yeah, like I guess the reason I would say that's more a comedy rather than a romantic comedy is because yes, there is like the Benjamin Bratt romantic plotline, but it's really not the heavy through line of the story. If anything, I kind of
Mm-hmm.
didn't even need them to end up together. Like if that had not happened, I would have been actually thrilled. Would have thought that was great. I guess that's like rom-coms. I feel like sometimes it's these women ending up with men that they have no business ending up with. Like you think,
Mm-hmm.
why do you want this guy? Like another bad one. Well, I guess we're talking about good ones. I lost track of my own thing.
You know, there are some ones that I absolutely hate, but I actually do have a list of rom-coms that I adore.
What else is on your adore list?
So like we were saying earlier, there's a lot of crossover, and I think that's just kind of the nature of rom-coms now. But I love Bridesmaids.
God.
I love Along Came Polly.
Oh gosh.
I love actually this one's kind of surprising, but I did really like it. How to Be Single.
Oh yeah.
That's a really
That
cute
was
movie.
and it has an unconventional ending. I won't say what it is. I mean, the title kind of gives it away, so it's not really a spoiler. But I remember thinking, oh wow, they didn't go there. Like they didn't pull a sneak attack and give up on its premise. Well, you know what was really funny, and it was just making fun of romantic comedies. Did you see Isn't It Romantic?
You know, I need to rewatch it because I had it on, but I was multitasking and I did not pay it fair attention.
It's funny. I feel like actually it was made for people like you and me that have made fun of romantic comedies a million times. So it just goes into every trope you've ever seen in a romantic comedy. And it was I think my favorite Rebel Wilson performance, other than her in Bridesmaids. I still think that's my favorite comedy performance with her.
She is just so funny. Like
just like at first, I did not know it was your diary. Thought it was a very bad handwritten book.
I like that line in that movie where she's like, we would like to cordially invite you to not live with us anymore.
I love it. And her like pouring the frozen peas on her tattoo.
And see, that's the thing, I think, with rom-coms now. I think in order for them to be successful, they have to have, like, a raunchiness to them. Like, I love raunchy, women-led rom-coms.
Oh, same. Yeah, I like... Well, do you like the movie... It's Cameron Diaz and Christina Applegate. It's called The Sweetest Thing.
Yes.
Because I kind of love that movie. It's kind of trashy.
I love that movie.
It's a little trashy, but I do love it. Because I do think Cameron Diaz is very good at being in romantic comedies. I think she is very, very good at it.
She's got that charisma.
She has that smile.
Mm-hmm.
And well, because
Um,
I love The Holiday, and that's definitely a romantic comedy.
and what is that? It's not with Cameron Diaz, but I liked Music and Lyrics with Drew
Oh my
Barrymore.
God, I forgot about that movie.
Yeah, it's
And it had a
cute.
new idea. It was like, oh, songwriters falling in love with each other, and it's a little
Hmm.
schmaltzy, but together they make beautiful music. you know. I also remember thinking, how did they get away with making this girl so much like Britney Spears? Like it was,
Oh
well, actually,
yeah.
even worse than that is going back to Monster-in-Law. There's a scene at the beginning where Jane Fonda has to interview this vapid pop star, and I think they even like put in the casting description, we would like Britney Spears impersonators to come out, because she looks just like. I remember when I first saw it. I saw it on a bad first date, and I thought, wow, they got Britney Spears for this. And I looked at her and went, oh, that's not. I don't I don't think that's her, but I had to wait until the credits. I'm like, I don't think that was her, but it looked just like
Yeah,
her. Like,
Britney Spears was such a trope in the
as
2000s.
she should be. I mean, my goodness. And she is. Have you seen her lately?
Oh my God, Jack.
Have you seen the newest thing? The
The,
I want to thank
at
all
the
the gays
LGBT.
at the LGBT. Like
Yeah.
we're all at some clubhouse somewhere, just drinking Cosmos and screaming
It's
gas at each
so
other.
hard because it's so funny. Like she's so funny on Instagram, but at the same time you're like, "Oh my God, is she
Oh yeah, it's
okay?"
like ha
Like
ha ha, but also has someone checked on her lately? It's a weird feeling. And my thing with her, I'm not saying she's anti-gay. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I always feel like when people say, "Oh, she's a gay icon," I'm like, okay, but why? Like, tell me
hmm
why she's a gay icon. Because the thing I always this might be a weird thing to rank people based on, but I feel like if you are a pop diva and you have at this point not been a guest judge on RuPaul's Drag Race, I just lift my eyebrow at you a little bit and go, why haven't you done that? That's weird. Like, they would want her
Well,
on that show in a second. They would roll the red carpet out for her. They would make a whole challenge probably based on her music.
well, I totally know what you mean because it's like, what has she really done for the
Right.
community? She's never really said anything. She's never really done anything. And it's funny you bring up RuPaul's Drag Race though, with having all the different
Yeah.
guests. Do you remember when Shania Twain was on?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I really like Shania Twain, and my ex was an even bigger fan of Shania Twain, but she didn't seem like she was really that invested with being there. Like
Oh
I almost
yeah.
feel like she felt uncomfortable.
I think she didn't know how to act. I think maybe she didn't want to feel like she was appropriating the culture. I
Uh,
mean, I don't know. I'm just purely trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. But I definitely went like, girl, like you're here and we're so excited, but you have to give us something. The one I was really
something.
upset about was they had Robin on the show, and I thought, oh my God, Robin, I'm so excited. Now, granted, Robin might just not have a very bombastic personality, but they kept like,
Hmm.
well, Robin, what did you think? She's like, I thought it was really good. I thought, okay, thanks, Robin.
You would definitely think that there would be a bit more oomph from her. Like
Uh,
all of her music has that extra like energy. So you would assume that she herself would be that way.
yeah, I guess maybe she's just one of those like like an extroverted introvert. Maybe she just puts all her energy out in her performing. Well, because I still think the best guest ever on that show, as far as like a pop star, was still Lady Gaga. Because she just
Oh
seemed to
yeah.
care so much. And I remember she went backstage in the Untucked episode and actually had a piece of paper with critiques for every single one of them, and it felt like a master class with Lady Gaga. And I thought, see, like, look, you seem like you care, and it makes us like you even more. That's why.
Yeah, she's just a sweetheart. She's very
Yeah,
genuine. You
I
can
had a
tell.
friend that said that they were not a fan of Lady Gaga because they thought she was disingenuous, and I thought I don't agree. you know?
I
Yeah,
highly
I
disagree.
mean, I guess she can be a little performative sometimes, but I never have questioned her, like, I don't know, integrity as far as caring about the things she claims to care about. Because she doesn't
Yeah,
mince
yeah.
words about the things that she is passionate about, which is what I love about her.
She's consistent. Unlike, okay, I'm gonna throw this person
I'll
under the
do it.
bus quickly.
Go for it.
So everyone knows I have really mixed feelings about Taylor Swift. You know, when she did the whole "You Need to Calm Down" video a year ago, I was not on board with that. I don't think she's an awful person, and I also don't think she's homophobic in any way. But I think she's smart about money, and I think she uses that.
I have to say, I've gone a whole journey with Taylor Swift, because I used to just roll my eyes at Taylor Swift and think, oh God, like I'm not into it. And I hate to be one of those people that, but then I watched her documentary, but really, I watched her documentary, and it kind of did make me see her in a whole new light, because it made me think, oh, I think she's just like one of those, I know these girls, because I've grown up in the South, these nice Southern girls that don't want to rock the boat, and they're raised to be like, yes sir, no sir, whatever doesn't cause a fuss, blah blah blah. And I think it took her growing up a lot to go, well, wait, like that kind of makes me not have any integrity if I'm not, like, I can say I'm pro, LGBTQIA as much as I want to, but if I'm not doing anything, what does it really matter? And I have such a platform. And I will say, all the queens that worked on You Need to Calm Down said that it was the best they've ever been treated on a music video set, because she actually spent time with them, like, engaged with like their social medias, paid them really well. Like, it at least seemed like, because then you hear all these horror stories of, Madonna, or I think
Madonna.
Here's the thing, Madonna has done things for the gay community, but she also just, it can be such a bitch. Like, I think Madonna just is kind of a bitch.
She is. I mean, she's notorious. This most recent tour, what is the Madam X or whatever? She pissed so many people off because she would start the concerts like an hour and a half after their scheduled time. And so people are like, what the fuck? It's already like, it's like 10:30 because she refuses to have the concert earlier. And people are tired.
And it's like, Madonna, you're not, yes, you're still an icon, but you're not the fresh thing on the block anymore. Like, you can't just, I mean, I guess one could argue she's earned the right to be a diva, but I think be a professional, like, come on, people are paying this money to come see you, like, just get on stage at the right time. Is that so hard?
Well, here's the thing. I think, people still like divas, but I would say nowadays, like, we don't like bitches. Like, Beyonce's a diva, or a modern diva, and she's not a bitch. Just like, people like her.
Is her like energy as a performer, but it's not her behavior. It's different. It's not. There's never been someone like, ugh, Beyonce, she was such a bitch.
Yeah.
It's just that you see her turn on that light switch as a performer when she gets on stage.
Completely. I think it has everything to do with energy. People don't want to work or be around or support people that they think are just mean.
Well, it's like the whole Lea Michele of it all. Like, we found out that she's just truly fucking awful. And I was a big fan of Lea Michele. This was really hard for me to see her be, because I had given her the benefit of the doubt for so many years when I heard rumors that she was a bitch. I went, guys, I think she's just like really type A and really motivated, and it probably comes off bitchy. I thought, like, oh, I think that's all it is. And then no.
Zach, I was eating all of this up. I was checking news like every 5 minutes, and I was never a huge Lea Michele fan. I didn't even watch Glee, to be honest. I love Spring Awakening, and that's how I really knew her. And
it was great.
I've listened to both of her albums, except her Christmas album, which I thought were pretty good too. But I'm not surprised, because I've heard these rumors about her forever.
Oh, remember when Naya Rivera was pretty much blacklisted because people said, how dare you say these awful things about Lea Michele? How unprofessional. And now it's like, well, sounds like she was telling the truth. And there's been radio silence from her so far as having a comment. I thought she was.
She's probably just eating her popcorn. She's like, I've been there, did that 7 years ago. Oh, Leah Michelle. That can be a whole episode or a spin-off podcast in itself.
My. Well, we're going to take a little break, and then we'll be right back to talk about the bad romantic comedy.
Ooh, spooky.
Okay, and we're back. So heading back in, we've discussed what we feel makes a good romantic comedy. So flip side, what do you think are the stereotypes of a bad romantic comedy?
Oh my God, Zach. Well, first off, I have to say that if you need to identify a bad rom-com, just go to your local Walmart and go to the bargain bin.
$5 bin. Oh, they're in there.
They're always
Do you know what's
there.
always in there?
I
always see Bewitched, Bride Wars, and Failure to Launch. Those are the three I always see.
There's always so many copies of Failure to Launch.
Oh my God, and the sad thing is, that's one of those movies where I know it's not good, but I kind of enjoy it in a weird way. But then I think, why do I like this? Like, I don't understand. Because I don't think Sarah Jessica Parker and Matthew McConaughey had quote-unquote bad chemistry, but it definitely felt like, why did you put these two performers together? Like, you know what it was? The whole time I was watching it, I love Sarah Jessica Parker, but I remember thinking like, oh, weird. Like, I think Jennifer Aniston should be playing her part. Like, I could really see Jennifer Aniston. Well, another thing that was really weird about that movie is that her roommate is Zooey Deschanel. And I thought, what chemistry auditions were held for these two?
It's like, in what universe do they exist together?
Yeah, I don't know. That one's a whole thing. That's a whole.
That movie. So I have a couple thoughts about Failure to Launch. First of all, the movie poster is like burned into my brain just because you see it, like you said, every single time you go to like a Walmart.
She's like pulling him in that like skirt. She's like, I gotcha. You know.
And with Sarah Jessica Parker, so we were talking about Sex and the City earlier. I like her, and I think she is good for like that, that crossover rom-com. Yeah. But I think Failure to Launch really is just kind of like a rom-com, a light rom-com, and I don't think she's really funny. Like, even on Sex and the City, she wasn't the funny one.
Well, it's weird. I think on Sex and the City, she had funny moments, but she was always kind of the straight woman to the show. But then I think with that movie, and the thing I think makes a good romantic comedy is I just speaking for me, I unabashedly love women as performers more than men. I just respond to them more. And so if the woman isn't giving me anything, I kind of go, well, I'm not into this then. Because they focus a lot more on the Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, yeah.
And I did not care about that. And I actually cared more about Zooey Deschanel than I cared about Sarah Jessica Parker.
Also, The Bounty Hunter is pretty bad.
I've never seen it.
To this day.
Yeah.
It is, I think, I've only fallen asleep twice in a movie theater. The first time was to The Bounty Hunter, and the second time was The Lion King remake.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, it was so bad.
Oh, okay. All right. I kind of enjoyed it, I have to say. I know.
What?
I know. Just hate me, drag me all over. Well, so I think the ones I think are the worst, where I just think, God, what a trash movie. I think Bride Wars is truly,
oh my God,
it should have been so good. I thought, oh my God, Anne Hathaway. First of all, not to shade Kate Hudson in any way, shape, or form, but the fact that they tried to set up a situation where they like went to school together and were childhood friends together, and I wasn't saying anything against Kate Hudson. She's very beautiful, but she does not look the age of Anne Hathaway. She just doesn't. So I never understood that. And also, we're supposed to believe these two girls are the closest of friends. They can finish each other's sentences, and yet they become like psychotic by the end of that movie. It's insane. It's an insane movie.
It's toilet paper.
That's an insult to toilet paper. Well, what's I think the last big like Hollywood or the last trend of rom-coms where I thought, oh, this is a new evolution, was, do you remember when they started making all of those really big ensemble rom-coms like Valentine's Day, New Year's Eve?
Oh my God.
He's Just Not That Into You, like all of those.
So many different brands of toilet paper.
Oh my God. I mean, the best of those is probably He's Just Not That Into You, but it's not by much.
Really? You think so?
Well, because here's the thing. The movie as a whole, I think, is not that great, but there are some really good performances in it that are too good for the movie. Like, I do think Jennifer Aniston and Jennifer Connelly are both really, really good in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's lots of stuff like, what a waste of Drew Barrymore. Like, I thought, like, really? That's all you're giving Drew Barrymore?
They did like nothing with her in that movie.
Yeah, all she does is end up with the one dude that you... Oh, and I remember Scarlett Johansson is in it. I mean, who isn't in that movie? It's a crazy cast.
Everyone. My thing with that movie is that it was just so boring.
That's very fair.
Like I felt like I was just watching literally someone go to a grocery store and like shop and then
Wait, there's a scene.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just buying groceries. It's like, I don't know. What do you think of him? Well, honey, I told you I don't like him. Oh, I know you told me that. I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
I'm sure everyone involved in that movie and all of these large ensemble rom-coms probably got really, really thick checks.
Oh, I mean, here's the thing. If I was an actor that was doing movies and they wanted me to be the gay stereotypical friend in some rom-com and pay me a bunch of money, hell yeah, I'll go do it. And I'll bring something fresh to it that they, and try to move it past. Well, hopefully we're moving past the gay stereotype. They actually make fun of that in that movie. Isn't it romantic also? But, well, okay, so of modern actors now, who would you like to see do rom-coms? Because I have a couple of gals I would like to see do.
Oh, boy. Anyone that's not Lucy Hale.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Let me see.
Well, for me, one of mine is Jennifer Lawrence. I'm surprised she has not really done a rom-com.
Really?
I think she would be so... I mean, because Silver Linings Playbook is kind of like a weird rom-com. It's like a rom-com if rom-coms were like Oscar-winning movies. I think she's just so like... The thing she has going for her is her just inherent likability as a performer. And I think that's what you need for a rom-com, because you're usually using your charisma to make up for a weak script. And so I think you could probably do that.
You know who I think I would want to see more in rom-coms, because she's really funny. She's great at comedy and she's great at drama. Brie Larson.
Oh, agreed. I love Brie Larson.
I love Brie Larson. I loved Room. I loved her in Trainwreck.
Oh yeah, I forget she's in Trainwreck. Yeah, she was good in that. And actually, it's kind of a rom-com. It's a little more of a comedy, but I also loved her in Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh yeah,
she was so funny, and she made every line of dialogue sound so sexual. It was just very, very funny. And yeah, like her, like, I actually would love to see. Like, I don't know, like, well, going into the next question, because it kind of comes out of this also, what do you hope for seeing in the future in terms of the genre evolving? Like, because for me, it's thinking, like, well, why can't there be a rom-com where India Moore from Pose is the star of it because she's, such a star? I just want to see more representation, like, just more... Yeah, just representation of people we don't usually see in rom-coms. Like, I remember loving Crazy Rich Asians just because I thought, wow, look at this entire Asian cast, like any white people that are in this movie are like bellhops or like waitresses, and I loved it. I thought that was great. You know?
Yeah, I think rom-coms right now, like you said, are very overwhelmingly white. And I think there needs to be more representation, yes. And honestly, I mean, that's what was so refreshing about Love, Simon.
Yeah.
I loved it. So I would love to continue in that vein of more people of color, maybe people with different sexualities or different, identities. Because there's just so many white woman rom-coms.
Well, so we did. We dated in the sense of we went on several dates, and we were.
Yes.
I always thought of you as like, I call you my passing ship in the night, where I feel like we were attracted to each other and we had a nice connection, but we just weren't ever gonna be in the same port to actually like link up at that time in our lives. Because remember, I was in Asheville, you were in Asheville because you were touring with a theater, and we met in Asheville. And I remember you were casually like maybe thinking of moving to Asheville, but it wasn't even like a serious decision. You're like, oh, maybe I've thought about it. And that was like my little string of hope. I was like, well, maybe when we hung out a lot, we did watch a lot of we've talked about this on your podcast, privileged white women movies, namely the Nancy Meyers filmography, because
she's the queen.
I mean, she loves a big kitchen and a bunch of white sweaters. That is what she wants.
The gazebo, remember the gazebo.
And the gazebo. She wants a gazebo, or she wants a really fabulous deck, like a really fabulous patio. And lots of white women in white sweaters, big kitchens. If you're Meryl Streep,
very boho.
Yeah, if you're Meryl Streep, you already have a big kitchen, but you want a bigger kitchen. And the thing is, I love those movies, but then I also think, why are these movies so white? So white. Like her daughter, Nancy Meyers' daughter, made a movie where, and I was actually excited because she was on NPR talking about it, about how she wanted to represent a change in the romantic comedy in terms of, what they could be. And so I had took that to mean, oh, there must be more diversity in it, more, No, it was an entire white cast, and it was truly shocking in the way that it was set in Los Angeles, and there was a party scene where I looked around the party and I could not find a single non-white person in the party, and the first person I found was a waiter, and I thought, ugh, gross.
Problematic.
Well, and in that case, you think, how out of your way did you have to go to not have any non-white extras in your movie? Like, there's no way that you didn't have any to pull from. That's just it's
true.
Impossible. Like even like extras, like I'm not, it's just insane. It's crazy. So yeah, I guess I just want better. I want stories we haven't seen before, and just more representation, as I'm sure you do as well.
Stories we haven't seen before is really important, I think, and that's why I think some of the most successful rom-coms really stand out, is because they were super original and creative. And, like Bridesmaids, we mentioned before, there's so many movies like that, but this one was raunchy and it was more, I don't know, it was less cutesy and kitschy. What's Your Number with Anna Faris? I love that one.
Oh, I never saw that.
It's really cute. It's a little corny and cheesy, but at the same time, it's about her sex life and, the whole premise of like, oh my God, I've had sex with so many people and I haven't found the one. So that made it stand out for me. And I think that's important.
Well, yeah, like, I feel like the thing, if I could just tell producers of romantic comedies, because clearly I am a Hollywood expert and they should listen to me. But I feel like sometimes people that have the money in Hollywood forget that the movies that make a ton of money are ones that are entertaining, well made, and they're something different. Like it's something that grabs a hold of an audience. And every time they try to make a bunch of copycat versions of that same movie, it only works maybe once or twice, but then the rest are just trash. And then they wonder why they don't make money. And it's like, well, because we've already seen this movie. We don't need there were so many movies like She's All That, Whatever It Takes, like
Oh
that series
God.
where it was just like, let's make the awkward nerdy girl pretty, and then she'll be popular, and then the boy that wasn't into her will want her, and it's like, enough, enough, and stop treating the female quote unquote leads as a literal like physical prop most of the time, like,
And stop stereotyping. Like, I'm so tired of all the high school tropes of like the jock and the cheerleaders and all of that. It's super old, and I think Gen Z is very much like not into that.
yeah, we don't respond to it. It's
Yeah.
because it's not. I think now when they still try to make movies that are super whitewashed and stereotypical, dumbed down, we go, well, this doesn't look like the world that we live in. This doesn't look like my friends. This
No.
doesn't look like my social media. Like, why? Like, why? If you really want to make the money, I feel like whenever, like something like Booksmart that came out last year, that was such a fresh movie because it was funny. It had fully like three-dimensional characters, but it had, super diverse cast. It had gay characters. It had bisexual characters. It had something to say, and I remember being like, "What an exciting movie!" Like, I hope they keep making movies like this because it's at least something new that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, that's why it did well.
Yeah, like that's the thing. When you surprise an audience, they enjoy it because they don't know where it's going, and so they actually get to have a real exciting experience as an audience.
It's kind of amazing thinking about how these movie studios will spend so much money, even on like the lesser budget like films. They'll spend so much money on just the most like crappy product.
Well, look at Cats. It's been $100 million on Cats.
Oh my God! Think of all the things that money could have went towards.
And I get so mad when I think about something like. Granted, did I see Cats? Yes, I did. But things like Cats, I think that's $100 million. You could have financed like 20 independent films that are dying to get made.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why? Well, we're gonna take one more break, and then when we get back, I'm gonna play a special game I have crafted for this episode. I'll be right back. Okay, and we're back. Now, in honor of the romantic comedies we talked about today, I wanted to play a little game with you that I'm calling, What Is That From? Now, what will happen is I will give a dramatic reading of a famous line from a romantic comedy, and you will try to guess what it's from. And if you get enough answers right, you'll win the honor of being branded a girl who gets a happy ending.
Oh my God.
If you get no answers right, you will unfortunately be a girl who gets left out in the rain. But I'm pretty sure you're going to get at least one of these right. If you don't, then I just don't know what to tell you.
Pray for me.
Are you ready, Victor?
I am ready.
Okay, let's play. What is that from? I like you very much, just as you are.
Oh, God, that's so generic. Is that from the Bargain Bin?
Oh, no, this is not a Bargain Bin. There should be a British accent that I did not do.
A British
I like
accent.
You very much, just as you are. That's awful.
I was like, is that British or alien?
I'm trying to do the actor's voice. It's kind of froggy.
So it's a man. Oh, is it? Fuck. What's his name? Hugh Grant in something.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to take it against you. It was from Bridget Jones's Diary, but it was Colin Firth.
Oh, the other one. Yeah.
Okay. Next one. I wanted it to be you. I wanted it to be you so badly.
Oh my God, that sounds so familiar. Oh my God, do I get hints?
I will say it starred a queen of the romantic comedy from the 90s that we talked about earlier.
Oh God.
It's an actress.
Yeah, it sounds so familiar. It doesn't. Is it Meg
It
Ryan?
is Meg Ryan.
Is it? It's not.
It
You've
is
Got
You've Got
Mail.
Mail.
Oh, it is.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do I get a point?
So you're officially not a girl gets left
Okay.
out in the rain. Okay. I'm scared of what I saw. I'm scared of what I did, of who I am. And most of all, I'm scared of walking out of this room and never feeling the rest of my whole life the way I feel when I'm with you.
Oh my God. For some reason, I want to think 10 Things I Hate About You, but I'm sure it's not.
80s.
Oh, 80s. Oh, man. Do, 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 do,
5,
do, do.
4.
I have no idea who's
Dirty
it.
Dancing.
Oh, man. That is a good one.
Well, I had one, but you told me you didn't see this movie. It was, I realize this comes at a very inopportune time, but I have this really gigantic favor to ask of you. Choose me. Marry me.
My best friend's wedding.
You got it.
Yeah, woo.
Okay.
There we go.
I want to marry you because you're the first person I want to look at when I wake up in the morning, and the only one I want to kiss goodnight.
Super generic. Sounds very notebooky, but I'm gonna request a hint.
It is a man, and it is from a, I don't know. He played a superhero at some point.
Is it Ryan Reynolds? Okay, so that narrows it down. I know he's been in several rom-coms, and in my opinion, I don't like them.
That's fine. Okay, it was definitely maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next one. If you're a bird, I'm a bird.
Oh, that one sounds like it should be easy, because I've heard it before.
You just said it a second ago.
I just said it. I said the name.
Man.
Name of the. It's a man. It's Ryan Reynolds. No, Hugh Grant.
No. You said this movie when you were guessing a different one, and it was not that.
What did I say?
And I'm sorry, it's The Notebook.
Oh shit! That's not a rom-com.
That's fair. Let's try to do schmaltzy romantic scenes.
Oh, Ryan Gosling though.
Next one. I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy, asking him to love her.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm gonna get so much hate for this because I know this quote.
It's a queen of the '90s romantic comedy.
It's Julie Roberts.
Julie Roberts.
Yes.
And it is not a man you've guessed twice.
Fuck.
Oh, man.
No. I'm not gonna give up. I'm not gonna give up.
You're at least not standing out in the rain.
Is
it is Notting Hill.
Oh yeah.
Okay, last one. This is the last one. I gave you an easy one for the last one. Okay.
Hopefully.
You had me at hello.
This is another one that sounds really familiar.
I can give you the full line if it helps at all.
Yes, please.
Shut up. Just shut up. You had me at hello.
Oh my God, Victor.
Do you want a clue?
Yes, please.
The actress that said it just won an Academy Award.
Oh fuck. Another one.
I don't. Her co-star. Well, this gives it away. Her co-star was like the big male movie star of the 90s. Like, white male movie stars.
Oh man, there's so many white
I
males
think
of the
like
90s.
quintessential 90s. What's Tom Cruise? Tom Cruise.
Oh, it was opposite Tom Cruise.
Yeah. I thought that would give it away.
Is it? I'm trying to think of rom-coms with Tom Cruise.
I guess
All he
this
does.
one you could argue isn't a rom-com. It's definitely a rom-com moment. That's why I included it. I was trying to think quintessential romance scenes.
Oh,
I'll give you 3, 0.
man.
It's Jerry Maguire.
Oh yeah. So I feel like contemporary Tom Cruise only does the same action movie over and over and over.
That's basically right. Well, you got at least a few right. So you're not a girl who gets left out in the rain. You made it inside. You get a happy ending, but you still have a rocky relationship with the male. But you're gonna work things out over time.
Okay, I can deal with that.
So the last segment that I do is to tell me who was the last actress who made you feel something. It could be a funny performance, a powerful performance. It could just be something that made you think.
So actually my answer for this is gonna have to be Kerry Washington and Reese Witherspoon in Little Fires
Ooh.
Everywhere. It was such a great miniseries that was just powerful. And the book, I haven't read the book, but the book itself has nothing to do with race, but with this production that I think Reese produced. She kind of reimagined the book, and it kind of entangled this theme of race and privilege into it. And the performances, I don't know if you've seen it, Zach, but I'm a big fan of Reese and a big fan of Carrie, and they both were phenomenal.
I don't know why I haven't watched it. I've been meaning to watch it. That's been like on my immediate queue for the past 2 months. So I need to just
literally, when you watch it, you won't put it down until it's over. It's excellent.
I won't. Maybe I'll watch that tonight. I need something else to
watch.
Should. Well, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I think at this point we have fully exhausted our knowledge of romantic comedies in our time.
We hit a lot of bases.
We did, and we're still making decent time, so we're doing okay. And a lot of quotes now from romantic comedies.
I do. It was so hard, that little quiz. I mean, I recognized so many of the quotes, and I was like, tip of the tongue. Tip of the tongue.
If anything, that proved the point of the game, which is how generic all the dialogue sounds from romantic comedies.
Yeah, honestly, when you read each one, I was like, oh, all of this could come from The Notebook.
Well, before we go, do you want to tell the listeners about your podcast?
Sure. So I host a podcast called Who Are You Again? I have to say it like that because it sounds weird if you don't. But it's a podcast where I interview people from my past. So it's like ex-lovers. It could be friends that I haven't seen in years. It can be anyone from my past. And essentially we just catch up, but then we discuss like a popular topic each episode. So there was an episode where we talked about how we've changed since college. That was one of the episodes. The episode I did with Zach was more in line with what we talked about today. I would say this is probably like the movie version of what we talked about online.
For sure.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. There's 6 episodes, so it's really easy to blow through. I'm doing them in seasons, so I just finished the first season about a month ago, and I'm hoping to get started on the second one, and probably towards the end of summer.
That's exciting. Like basically like a fall premiere.
Yeah. I'm thinking like late August, early September. So
where can they find you on social media?
So I am on every social, and you can find me usually by my handle, which is _. Sometimes there's not an underscore, but there is an underscore on my Instagram. And yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast. I had a really good time. Me too. It was so much fun. I would love to come back if possible. Oh, please. I need there's so many topics to go into.
We could
There's
talk
so
about
many.
Leah Michelle's downfall for an entire episode.
Literally, I was so invested. That was juicy AF.
Well, you can follow Victor at the handle he gave you. You can follow the pod at In Another World Pod on Instagram or on Twitter at IAW Podcast. And if you could please go onto Apple Podcasts and rate and review, that would be wonderful, because just got to keep pumping in those numbers. Keep getting those.
Pumping them out.
Well, I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and I'll be back next week with another pop culture related episode. Bye.
Bye, everyone.